Let's take a look at the charts on NEO from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So as I typically do, rotate through the coins here, updating things usually every month. In NEO's case, it's been 4 months, 5 months since I've done an article. And before that, probably even longer. As I write these, I'm always hoping to uncover new things going on with the chain, especially a seemingly dead chain like NEO. Now they have version 3 coming. Eventually, they're working on it, whatever the hell that means. They are still centralized, though. 5 of the 7 nodes of the network validators are the NEO Foundation. They've repeatedly said that they are going to decentralize. They have 11 candidates for future validators. This is multiple years now of we're going to decentralize. The NEO Foundation holds a boatload of NEO. They just sold 1.6 million or whatever I said in the article, NEO in March to cover costs for 2020, which I think is around 11 million, which is just insane. So it's hard to take a network seriously when they're not decentralized. The foundation is dumping the pre-mine. I mean, this is the same story over and over and over again with every single pre-mine chain. Ripple, Stellar, ADA, like the list goes on and on and on. It's like Groundhog's Day. You can't take chain as a store of value if they're just going to dump on you constantly to pay for development, marketing, whatever. I don't take an issue with paying developers. It's just this, we control X% of the circulating supply that's not circulating, but we're going to dump it every year slowly. It's hard to invest in that long term. That's what I'm saying. If we look at NEO compared to other coins that use a staking mechanism, now NEO isn't technically proof of stake. It's Byzantine fault tolerant something. They do have pretty high transactions per day relative to everything else. They have high transaction volume. I don't know why. They have really low active addresses. So this just tells me there's a few entities moving a lot of on-chain volume. Don't know why. They're either in the middle or the bottom of every other category, Git commits especially. And you can argue about Git commits like people argue with me about Cardano, where there's hive brain of developers, there's multiple repos, whatever. I don't really care. I look at Git commits as just a barometer for, is there activity in the developing community? They sold 11 million worth of NEO. They should be able to pay some developers to do some stuff on the chain, right? Just not seeing it in the Git commits there. Here's the NEO Foundation. They hold mostly NEO. They also hold BTC and some non-NEO stuff, but they hold a lot of NEO. I put the exact amount of the non-circulating supply that they hold in the article, but it's just absurd. I mean, to consider this as a long-term investment. You're basically enriching the foundation and making sure it continues to exist by buying NEO because they have somebody to sell to. This is the repo. It's semi-active. I mean, the scale here is 5 to 10 commits a day. It's not Litecoin 0, but it's also not extremely active, you know? Here's the roadmap for 3.0. It's past Q1 2020. They haven't launched 3.0 yet. They're still saying, by saying we're going to launch a mainnet, that tells me they're still in the testnet phase, just like ADA. It took ADA 5 years to do what they're doing now, and it's taking Ethereum however long to transition to proof of stake. So I get that these things take time, but it's the constant hype, and like this is a March 2019 roadmap. I looked for a more recent updated roadmap, couldn't find it. They have been working on this, definitely. It's not like a dead project from that respect. So I'd expect 3.0 by January, at least the final stages of it. January 2021, like it should be firmly solidified if this is a real network, that they're going to have decentralized validators and people actually using this thing. If we look at the dApps for NEO compared to everybody else, ETH, Tron, EOS takes most of the dApp slice of the pie here. Now in general, most of these on every chain are completely dead or inactive, no active users, no transaction volume. They just kind of exist. But if we're looking at total dApps per platform, bare minimum, this is what the numbers show. NEO is certainly leading the non-top 3 projects in that regard. If we look at transactions per day and transaction size, I don't know why transactions per day spiked to basically all-time highs recently. Looked for it, couldn't find out why. It could be related to some testnet transition. NEO 2.x to 3.0 transition. I just don't know. I couldn't find it. Average transaction values didn't really spike too much. But the issues I was mentioning in the previous articles were you're seeing this decline of transactions per day. over time, over the past 2 years, with no real upticks that aren't unrelated to price. So this was actually price related in mid-2019. And this is, I don't know, related currently. Looking at NVT and active addresses to me tell the real story here, which is it's just not really used by anybody. It's kind of a dead chain. It's just existing. Until 3.0, I don't expect this to pop up. Similar to ADA, like leading into 3.0, it could see some activity and some movement, but it's just unexciting for me. NVT is kind of all over the place. Historically at highs, not all-time highs, but it is curling up, which isn't what you want to see if you're bullish. You want to see it curling down. I said an NVT below 10 is like bull territory. So that's what I'd be watching for if I was a bull long-term. Take a look at some charts here. We have BIFINX long-short ratio, the 50, the 200 EMA, VPVR, yearly pivots, and RSI. So NEO's actually had its golden cross a few days ago, kind of buoyant with the rest of the market. Actually kind of looks like Tezos. I should check the correlations there because it's clearly lagging, ETH moves, Link moves, BTC moves. All those pairs have sort of broken their early 2020 highs at this point. You can see there's a cup and handle thing where it sort of broke out. It's got resistance at 17 to 20, previous local. So that's really the level to watch going forward. Long shorts are kind of unchanged over the past 18 months. Nothing too exciting. No divergence on RSI, maybe a slight bearish divergence. You can see we got a higher high here with a lower high in RSI. So really anything past 20 is bull territory. Trend-wise, it is bullish just based on the 5200 cross. And I mentioned this in the article as well. I thought about not even including this because it's super loose Wyckoffian accumulation, but if you compare this to like the stellar Wyckoffian accumulation, very similar picture in that it's Wyckoffian-like. It's not perfect, but it's had support tests, resistance tests, and it looks like it wants to run up. What you typically get is a reconsolidation at the previous resistance, and then you get a confirmation with a range breakout. What we saw for stellar is actually 2 more taps of the resistance and then a range breakout, and then it went right back to accumulation. So it's not unreasonable to see a higher high here eventually, again around 18 to 20 for NEO in the near term, based on Wyckoffian accumulation. And if you're not sure what that is, it's just a stereotyped ranging pattern that you see in markets that indicates a potential bottom, bullish reversal. The spring here, selling climax or shakeout, whatever you want to call it, is kind of the key indicator for me as part of identifying this Wyckoffian accumulation. It's got to have a massive spike down. It went the entire range, and well, I'm not even showing the wicks here, but definitely a spring for sure with this new multi-month low. So this looks good for up in that regard as well. Cloud likes it. It's above the cloud. 5200 or the TK lines are bullish. Lagging span is above price, above cloud. So trend loves this, and really I'd just be watching this 18 to 20 zone for consolidation, resistance, that sort of thing. And NEO BTC has definitely flattened out. I wouldn't say it's Wyckoffian. You get these dips, these U's over and over again. Tons of resistance on the upside. No bearish divergence yet, but trend is bullish to neutral. You can see it's super flat here. Lots of volume in this zone. So lots of people changing hands with their NEO here, which is usually a good sign for weak hands selling to strong hands who are buying like the lows. It's just that the upside looks pretty limited. We're talking like a 2x maximum, 2700 sats from 12. 2700 would be a surprise. I'd expect 2K basically from here. So the fundamentals for NEO are kind of meh, with 3.0 coming probably by mid 2021. And you may see some hype. There's going to be a lot of articles and PR, surrounding that, similar to ADA. Technicals are actually pretty decent looking, similar to Stellar in that it's a bit of a laggard, but it looks like bullish accumulation.